and gold. This was in the news in 2002. It's in Road to Tyranny. I mean, the articles. I mean, understand. Now, Al-Qaeda would make young 12, 14, 15-year-olds get in the first ring around Kabul. Our troops would then bomb and kill them while Al-Qaeda then waited, loaded on C-130s, high fives. Woo, yeah, victory. Woo, going to Pakistan. Woo.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now, new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365. A very wealthy U.S. citizen is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He says it will change everything about our lives. The way you shop, travel, invest, educate your children, and even how you take care of your health and your own family. Now, this man has made some outrageous predictions over the years. The crazy part is, he's usually right. You see, he predicted the collapse of GM, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and America's biggest mall owner, General Growth Properties. In fact, Barron's called his work a dire prophecy. Recently, he created a video, which you can watch online for free, detailing his biggest and most important prediction yet. And it's a real eye-opener. I can't stress this enough. You should at least watch this free video online today. He explains everything you need to know, including simple steps you can take to protect yourself. You can find the video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica, the number 3.com. Watch the free video at www.endofamerica3.com. That's endofamerica3.com.
Over the last year, Alex has told you about, and many of you have experienced, emergencies and disasters in unprecedented numbers. People have had to literally run for their lives. Folks, this is Steve Shank with eFoods Direct. I'm not here to scare you, but when disaster strikes, you won't have time to think. You must act automatically. What does a pilot do when the helicopter engine fails in flight? No time to think, just act automatically. When the alert is broadcast, the alarm sounds, or the knock comes on your door, you'll need to be ready to act without thinking of what to do or what you need. You need a 5-day extreme emergency kit. With serious supplies and real food to secure 2 adults for 5 days, this powerful $300 extreme emergency kit is free with an order of at least $995 from eFoods Direct. Go to efoodsdirect.com/Alex or call 800-409-5633. That's efoodsdirect.com/Alex. 800-409-5633.
Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Back Sundays, 4 to 6 p.m. Thank you for joining us. For just one segment, Webster Tarpley joins us. Then I'm going to get into the radiation cover-up news. Then we're going to continue with your phone calls, John, Bill, Extra, Ian, Bob, and others. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. Now, Webster Tarpley is in downtown D.C., just did a TV interview. He's got to jump on a subway here in about 15 minutes, so he's going to be leaving us very, very soon. But I wanted to get him on dealing with the latest Libya developments. He's got some new key intel on the al-Qaeda forces, even the Wall Street Journal admits commanding the rebels from the east with U.S., NATO, and British command, CIA in place with their old comrades, al-Qaeda. We also want to get into the French grabbing Gbagbo, the president, backing the rebels who they admit have been slaughtering people with enjoyment, so helping a humanitarian slaughter, just like the UN honcho, the 800,000 murdered in 94 in Rwanda. But before we go there, gas prices climbing towards $5 per gallon. coming up. CBS predicts by Memorial Day. Also, IMF cuts U.S. growth forecast on oil, lackluster jobs pace. George Soros has announced that they have a consensus from Bretton Woods, too, that the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency. They're going to move away from it to a new basket of Ponzi scheme. And that the consensus is that, yes, they're going to do this. Of course, you can't believe anything out of Soros' mouth, but monitoring Bloomberg, they were there on site over the weekend, marching the globalists through, celebrating what they've done. So, Webster, briefly, on the economic front, what's your take on what's happening with commodities rising so much?
Well, we are, of course, in a world economic depression, and we're in the second phase of it still. We're in the European banking collapse phase of this Great Depression. If you compare it to the Depression of 1929 to 1933, we're still seeing European banking systems blow up. We've seen Portugal blow up in the last week or so. And, of course, the bailouts that are being arranged are not bailouts of Greece or Portugal or Ireland. They are the bailouts of London, Paris, and Frankfurt banks that have bought the bonds of these countries. And as for Soros, I think there's a tremendous amount of demagogy and smoke and mirrors with him. I think in some ways he's trying to occupy a public space. There ought to be a debate about world monetary reform, but he can't do it. And when you get down to this question of reserve currency, here's what you've got to come up with. And you can't just pull this out of your nose from one day to the next. You've got to have something comparable to the U.S. Treasury market. The U.S. market in Treasury securities trades on a normal day about $1 trillion worth of T-bonds and T-bills. However, it can, if necessary, ratchet that up to 2 or 3 or maybe 4 trillion in a single day. So it's the most liquid. It's the deepest, broadest, and most liquid market in the world. And it could, of course, be actually a national asset instead of being a plaything for speculators, which it is. But if you want to have a reserve currency, you've got to have something that can do the same thing. So a central bank could come and say, look, here's $2 trillion of securities. We want cash, and we want it now, within 2 hours. Nobody in the world can give you that. The Europeans don't have it, the Japanese. Nobody comes close. So if you're saying get rid of the dollar, what you're really saying is go towards a situation where there is no world reserve currency. Chaos. And maybe that fits together with
and then they admit, yes, then they're going to have this new global regulatory system that plays those markets and plays them off against each other with their inside knowledge, further consolidating power, and that's exactly what they said in their buzzwords. Shifting gears in this same topic area, then we'll look at the geopolitical military operations expanding through AFRICON in Africa, as you predicted 2 years ago in the Obama deception. You said that would be the new military move first by Brzezinski and the Anglo-American system through the left cover Obamanoids. But Iceland has rejected the bankster shakedown, so the British government is talking about trying to seize accounts, lawsuits against the government, though it's been admitted in Iceland now for over a year that all of those debts, over 95% of them, were owed by the private bankers and derivatives. This is not the debt of the Irish or the Icelanders or the people in Portugal. That's the big issue here. Latest development, the government of Reykjavik has said, no, we're not turning our people into debt slaves, and Britannia is coming after them.
I say hats off to the people of Iceland. It's a gallant little country, a couple of 100,000 people. They're under attack by a much larger country, Great Britain, joined by the Dutch, joined by the European Union, the Second International, and all the rest of them. The leaders that they have inside the country are generally a very bad pack of characters, especially the socialists, who are really the socialists are the ones who are most eager to give in to the IMF. But it's a resistance movement in the population against finance oligarchs and against finance capital, and that is, to put it mildly, what we need here. In this country over the weekend, we've had the Republicans bringing forward the demands of Wall Street and the financial community, and Obama trying to find ways to capitulate. And his capitulation on the weekend, surrendering on this budget stuff, this was one of the things he did was to destroy $1.5 billion of funding for fast rail. So the Chinese have fast rail. The French have had it for 30 years to the day, the TGV. The U.S. is still nowhere and will remain nowhere because of this sellout by the Obama administration. And now he's coming after you again on Wednesday with more cuts. And these, I believe, are genocidal type. In other words, he says he's going to talk about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security entitlements. Now, this is where old people start to die. So,
and he's got the left cover because he's the Democrat. And so they're making it class warfare against the social safety net that even if you totally removed it, explain briefly as an economist the numbers, it would do nothing to the 1.5 quadrillion in derivatives. So they're scapegoating it as a resource war, as we just saw a few months ago with Bill Gates admitting, hey, you hire 10 teachers when you kill grandma. They're really setting the stage to play us off against each other.
Absolutely. And remember, the historical experience from Germany 1930 to 1932 to Schwarzenegger to everybody else, the more you cut the budget under depression conditions, and that's where we are, you cut the budget under depression conditions, your deficit grows. Next year, it will all be worse because of what's been destroyed. And, of course, the human toll in the meantime is very large. Obama, by the way, told people what he would do. He gave an interview to the Washington Post editorial board in the week before his inauguration, where he said very clearly, I've been talking about hope and change, and that's all a bunch of baloney, in effect. I'm going to attack Medicare. I'm going to attack Social Security. Those are the things we have to do. In other words, we've got to come up with money for bigger and better bailouts of Wall Street. So that's what he's carrying.
And by the way, you laid all this out 2 years ago. This came out in March 13th of 2009. We got a FBI visit over this film. They were so scared of it, so I launched it 2 days earlier. They were asking about this film. I guess they were tapping our phones and knew what was in it. Everything you and I laid out in this and others has totally happened. Obama deception, evergreen, more important than ever. And my final point on this was listening to Bloomberg Financial over the weekend from Bretton Woods. They were there with a steady train of miscreants coming through, was that the great news is there's a consensus. The same bankers that engineered this are now saying the system has failed. They've got a new system and that they're going to basically have austerity. But then they even admitted the problem is all the big mega banks are insolvent and are basically zombies. But that they can't break them up, so that they're just going to go ahead with this program. And the final point that was so frightening about it was that they seemed to be very, very pleased with what was happening.
Well, certainly the big impulse to do something to attack Wall Street, which was very, very clear in 2007, 2008, 2009, has essentially been blunted by Obama. He has run a counterinsurgency operation of massive proportions, so that the entire attempt to do something, for example, to ban certain kinds of derivatives, ban credit default swaps, ban the collateralized debt obligations, the things that did the most damage in September and October of 2008, that is, of course, that has gone nowhere. The financial regulation bill was dictated by the banks themselves with the help of Barney Frank and with the help of...
We got to shift gears
Obama
now,
has done all this.
Webster, because we've only got you for this one segment. You've got to go. But in the final equation, we're scapegoating welfare moms and old people and seniors instead of talking about the trillion-pound gorilla in the living room, the trillion-pound elephant, the bankers, the banker takeover. That's the big issue, but Americans are really starting to get it. Now, specifically on Libya, you've got some new developments there.
What we're seeing, I think, is that the rebels in Libya are simply militarily incompetent, and they are so inferior to Gaddafi's forces that I don't think they can hold on, even with the NATO airstrikes. I think there's a very good possibility that we'll reach a choice point here where it's going to be either watch the rebels get wiped out, and it just means militarily defeated, really not much more than that, or have an actual land invasion, a ground invasion. You see that there's the thinking in NATO, coming from Rasmussen, the head of NATO, is that the partition of Libya is a good goal. He says there has to be a political solution. There's no military solution. That's NATO speak for we want to carve the country in half. Unfortunately for Obama, for Sarkozy, and for Cameron, they are so committed in their demagogy to getting rid of Gaddafi that they may not be able to accept this. But the big thing is the inferiority of the rebels on